Does that work now? So that's the button on top. It's very small writing, but it is good to see you. Hey, welcome to Northpointe. Great to have you with us today. I want to welcome our campus. I believe our campuses are with us right now live. And I want to welcome our Nixa campus. And I want to welcome our Republic campus. And I want to welcome our Dream Center campus. Now, last week, I was able to be at a couple of the campuses. And specifically during this time, I was at the Dream Center campus. And I'm always kind of like nervous, wondering like when the person at the broadcast campus says hi to the other campuses, do they care? And do they participate during the message, right? I wonder, and I'm insecure about it. I was overwhelmed. I tell you, Dream Center campus, you did it solidly, and I assume everyone's doing that. So could you all welcome the Dream Center campus right now? And Nixa and Republic, we love you too, but I was doing an experiment with the Dream Center campus last week. So, hey, if you're joining us online, great to have you with us as well. So good to have you as we do this journey on backwards. The idea is we're looking at teachings of Jesus that at first blush, they kind of feel backwards. Like they don't go with the grain, they go against the grain. The kind of teachings of Jesus that seem countercultural, seem counterintuitive. But if these backwards teachings have the ability to drive us forward if we really listen to this. And so if we want to grow in our faith, we can't do everything that naturally seems right to us. We got to look at the teachings of Jesus, and maybe even especially when they seem backwards, dive into it and say, God, is there an area maybe I can grow in this? And so today, I'm so pumped because today we get to talk about money. And not just money, we get to talk about your money. Come on, somebody, huh? Like every week, it seems like every week someone stops me in the lobby and says, Jeremy, are you talking about money today? And I'm like, not today. They're like, man, bummer. I brought a friend. And I was really hoping this would be the week you talk about money, but you are in luck today. Now, here's the deal. I don't talk about money a ton. Matter of fact, the last message that was focused on generosity or finances was in March of 2021. And so it's been like 110 or 111 weeks since we did that. And if that was the last time you were at church, you're like, dude, every time I show up, you're talking about money. That just means you're super lucky, and you ought to stop on the way home today by a grocery store and buy you a lotto ticket, which actually is not a financial principle we're teaching today, is don't do that. And as a matter of fact, I read this week, that you are more likely to die on the way to the store to buy a lotto ticket than to actually win the lotto at the store. So just, do with that what you will. But you can't win if you don't play, yo. Anyway, so we're going to talk about money. Now, there's a lot of things we can talk about money. We can talk about money facts. Matter of fact, raise your hand if you've ever done something dumb with money. Anybody? Or something dumb? Some of you are driving it, some of you are living it, some of you are sitting by it. It's just, right, we've all done like, what happened, right? Money is crazy. We've all made money decisions that have impacted our lives greatly. Some things about money that aren't true. Some of the things we learned about money, like you've heard the phrase, put your money where your mouth is. You heard that? Don't, okay? Do you know that 13% of our coins and 40% of our paper bills actually have fecal matter on them? So do not put your money where your mouth is. You ever held coins and your hands smell like metal after you've been holding coins? That ain't metal you're smelling. That's body oil. It's gross. So don't put your money where your mouth is. You heard this? Money grows on trees. It doesn't. It's 75% cotton and 25% linen, okay? Money grows in the fields is what it grows. Money, they say this, for every penny that the government has to make a penny, it costs them almost 2 cents to make a penny. I'm not great at math, but I'm like, I don't know that that's profitable. But, there's a lot of things about money. Did you know that $750,000 was left in TSA alone in 2022 in the trays? So I think that's worth buying trays just in case people leave. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put that at my front doors now. When people walk in, hey, if you don't mind just putting your money here, and then over the time, maybe people forget. Like money, there's all sorts of things about money. How many know that maybe America is a rich country? We're in the top 10. We are in the top 10, no matter how you look at it, maybe 6, maybe 8, depends on the different things you're looking at, for the richest country in the world. The number one, I think it's Morocco. Maybe it's Monaco. I don't think it's Mexico, but but we're like number 6, number 8. We're number 1 in North America. I know that. So take that, Canada. But the thing is, America, we've got all this money, but they also say, the American Psychological Association says that over 72% of us, our number one stressor is financially related. And I know that's true. Like just our prayer cards, if they're any indication, our conversations, if they're any indication. Think about this. We're in a top 10 country when it comes to income, and 72% of us are stressed about money. So what we're going to talk about today is generosity is backwards. Like this is probably something that you're going to be like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But is it possible that the teachings of Jesus, when it talks about generosity, might be helpful? So let me. I also realize when I share something like this, there's some easy conversation closers that you're probably already having. So let me address a couple things that might interrupt you from listening today. Number one is I'm not in sales, okay? Meaning, I don't get a commission on today. Meaning, when we have an offering, if it's like an extra heavy offering today, it's not like the board's gonna get together and vote on a bonus. That's not how this thing works, okay? This isn't my church. This is our church. We are all stewards of a mission that God's given us, okay? Second thing is this. I'm not today trying to get you to give to North Point. Now, you might have grown up in a setting where everyone says, okay, you got to give a tithe to your church. And if you didn't grow up in church and you just read a Bible, you're like, what's a tithe? Okay, let me explain. That's just a word in Scripture that means a tenth. And in the Old Testament, it talks about that a lot, okay? That they should take a tenth of what they have and they should point it outwards. Why? To remember who it's from and to be a blessing to those around. I don't know if you've heard this said a lot in church, but I don't believe the correct interpretation is everyone is legally mandated by Jesus now to bring 10% of their money to the church, okay? Church looks a lot different than it did 2,000 years ago, I'm just saying, and I work at one, okay? All I'm saying is this. What we ought to do is we ought to be generous people. I'm not legalistic about this. There's some churches, maybe you've had this in your background where in order to be a member, you got to agree that you're going to give 10% and then we'll audit your finances. And we're not the king. Okay, that's stupid. Have you noticed yet we don't have members? We don't get together and vote on the color of the carpet. That's not what we do. We are part of a mission. Like if you're a member, that means you help us on the mission. If you're not, I guess we figured it out. Okay, bottom line is we're on a mission. What I want us to do is be generous people. If we're generous people, I promise you, the mission we're a part of will be well taken care of, okay? We don't need to legislate it. We don't need to make people feel guilty. We're not one of those churches that preach a mini sermon every time the offering buckets are about to be passed and make people feel bad, or like say, look at the roof's leaking. Those are God's tears because we don't give enough money, right? Or, God's not up there being like, man, the streets of gold ain't going to pay for themselves. Someone's got to give some money. It's not about that. It is about this principle of generosity that all of us should have. All of us should have. And I want to talk about that today. So first thing that we have in our outline, and it's on our apps, North Point Mo is an app, and you can have an outline there. But the first thing that I want us to walk through is this, that my money is tied to my heart. My money is tied to my heart. And to show that, I've got this illustration here, okay? So I've got my money. Well, to be honest, I don't have any money in it, but this is where if I had money, I'd put money in this, okay? I've got my money here, and it's tied to my heart. My money and my heart are connected. There's this umbilical cord. Everywhere my money goes, guess what comes with me? My heart. Because wherever I'm invested, I love that. Like for example, if you invested a few years ago in Bitcoin and you put your treasure there, guess what you're rooting for today? Bitcoin. If you are invested in the Chiefs and you bought a whole bunch of Patrick Mahomes rookie cards, guess where your heart is? Him doing well. Why? Because you've invested in there and you want the price to go up. If you've invested in Waffle House stock, okay, where are my people at? Is that you're rooting for it, right? Where your money is, there your heart is also. A practical next step, and I encourage you to do this, is schedule an appointment with a tattoo artist and get a treasure chest tattooed above your heart. And why? That way you'll remember the verse that we're going to see in Matthew chapter 6. I want us to read this. It says this, Jesus talking, he says, don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moths and vermin don't destroy, where thieves don't break in and steal. Now this next line, I'm going to give a solo, and then it comes our ensemble. We're going to read it together. Not yet, it's my solo. Let me have my moment, okay? Then we will all read it together, okay? Here's the last line. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Okay. Comes from the diaphragm. Sit up. Here we go, okay? It's your turn. Everyone, on the count of 3, we're going to read that last line together. And if you can't see it from where you're sitting, make an appointment with an eye doctor and just mouth watermelon cantaloupe and no one will know. Okay, so here we go. Ready? On the count of 3, we're going to read that last line. 1, 2, 3. For where there your heart will be also. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Whatever I invest in, I'm invested in. Wherever my treasure is, that's where my heart goes also. That's why you think your kids are cuter than your neighbor's kids. This is why. Your kids statistically are probably average, okay? But don't tell a mom that. You're like, my kid is so cute. You're like, yeah, it looks like a baby, right? Looks like little E.T., okay? Well, I don't know what to tell you. But why? I'm pot committed to this human being, so I think they're awesome. I think the teacher's stupid if they give my kid a bad grade. Why? Because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. It's just a principle of life, okay? We want to be generous. Americans, top 10, top 8 richest countries in the world. And helium's not what it used to be. I'm just going to say that, okay? It can't even make it through 3 services, okay? But top 10 country of things that come in, here's the challenge. The average American, not you, but the person next to you, the average American spends more money on cat food and dog food than they do on generosity in a year. Now, I'm not saying your dog should starve. Cats, I'm all right. But why I say that is we live in a country where we have more than most. Matter of fact, if you are debt-free and you could scrounge up $10, you're richer than 25% of the planet. If you're broke but you're not in debt, you got a leg up on everybody. Like, broke ain't the worst thing you can be. Broken in debt. Like, I'm living La Vida Broca, right? Like, but at least you're up 25%, right? But we live in a country where there's so much that we've received. Why aren't we, as average, more generous? And so there's a couple of things I spitballed. One is this. We have an overwhelming need. And I want to be very clear. I think some of you might be in a spot where you're not able to be generous because you are going through a season right now where you're doing everything possible to survive. And you might not hear this in church. I've heard this before. You might not hear it again, so take advantage of hearing it this time. If you're overwhelmed in life, what you don't need is a lecture on giving. You need a hug. And I'm not a big hugger, so I delegate other North Pointers in the lobby to hug you when this is done, okay? Just say, I want one of those things Jeremy was talking about, or just sneak up on someone from behind. Okay, people love that stuff, and we'll bail you out of jail. But bottom line is, listen, you don't need to be manipulated and guilted into generosity. I believe there are some times where you're doing everything to survive, and you need to know God sees you, God loves you, and a healthy church expression is coming alongside of you in community, okay? Now, I would also say, if you find yourself in that spot, do everything humanly possible to get out of that spot. Cut the cable, okay? Get knockoff brand everything. Like, don't get Cheerios, get Happy-O's, okay? Well, whatever you got to do. Like work at it, figure it out. Why? So that you can now be a blessing to others, right? We're all going to be broke for a season in life. Get it over with as quick as possible, okay? Because I believe overwhelming need is exhausting, it's draining. And we all probably go through that at some season for a season of time. So do everything possible. And there's great tools. I believe there's great podcasts, there's great books, there's great practices. We ought to do everything possible to make sure we don't spend one more day in overwhelming need than we need to. But I don't want you to feel that God's mad at you if you're there, or that you should feel guilty because you're there, okay? But do everything possible to get out of that situation as best as it's up to you. Okay. Second thing, though, is this. Why don't we give more to generosity? Not because, I don't think that's the number one reason. The number two reason is because of overactive greed. I want more. I want more. I want more. We live in a top 10 resourced country, but 72% of us are stressed out of our mind because we don't have enough. Because we see what someone else has. We have people who spend millions of dollars to get our attention on media for just a couple moments to convince us that our life isn't as good without their products. And I'm not against having stuff, I'm against stuff having you. And when we have to have more stuff so that now we don't have margin in our life to be generous, I believe we fall short of God's best, and we fall short of a beautiful expression of what community could be in any area. I believe we need to figure out, God, if for some reason you bring in the surplus in my life, how do I become a trusted person that points my money towards your work? Now, today what I want to do, I want to read one parable from Jesus. And then I'm going to give an illustration that will be done. Now, don't get excited. The illustration might be the longest illustration in the history of Jeremy's illustrations, okay? And that's saying something, okay? But let's walk through this. Let's walk through this story together in Luke chapter 12. Luke chapter 12 says this. Jesus tells them this story. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. So he's a farmer. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Time out for a second. Let's all feel bad for this guy. Everyone say bummer. Isn't that a bummer? Like, I am such a good farmer, and I am having such a bumper crop year. Is it bumper crop, banner crop, bumper crop? Where's Dan? Bumper? Bumper! He gave me the finger. The good finger? Yeah, bumper. Okay. Bumper crop year. I'm having such a good year. I've got so much crops. I filled my storage units. Oh no. What else am I going to do? What happens when I have more? Where will I store all my stuff? That'd be like your friend telling you, man, I'm stressed. Can you pray for me? The president of my bank called me and said, I've got so much money in my savings account, they can't secure this money anymore. I need an additional bank for additional money so it can be secured, and I have no idea which bank to choose. Super stressed. Can you put me on the prayer chain, okay? You don't want to punch that dude in the throat. You're like, come on, man, seriously, you're whining about that? That's what's going on. So then this brilliant dude says, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I'll store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, self, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool. If you didn't watch the A-Team, you should YouTube that. Mr. T does this awesome. Sucker! Right? This very night, your life will be demanded. Okay, stop. Okay, this very night, your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you've prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. A guy has so much success, so much surplus in a land, remember the context upon which this is written, or let me paint it a little bit. In a time where the Romans who were ruling, when they would roll through town and give out bread, people followed because they wanted bread. That when Jesus did a miracle and multiplied bread, thousands gathered. And then they would be like, hey, can you do that bread thing again? Like if he did that in Springfield and he was like, you want some bread? We'd be like, no thanks, okay? Because we're talking a community in a time of world history where there was a lot of need. And a guy had so much surrounded by need, and he pointed it all in. And God said, you fool. You think everything that comes through you is for you? Your legacy is going to be short-lived. But I challenge you, he says, to be rich towards God. That's backwards. To take what I have and share it with those around me who didn't work as hard as me. It's backwards. But what if that backwards thought will drive us forward? So let me give, I got a point here to fill in. It's a cheat code, and I love cheat codes, right? You know, I grew up, playing Nintendo and playing Contra, and you do the cheat code, left, right, whatever it is, right? And whatever game you want cheat codes, I love cheat codes. Here's a cheat code that I got in Scripture. If I read the Bible, here's the only shortcut, and I'm always looking for shortcuts. I'm sure it's a sin, okay? But I've only found one. I'm looking for more, but here's one. It says, if it's true in Scripture that where my treasure is, there my heart will be also. If that's a true principle, and I don't like where my heart is, you see where I'm going? It's a shortcut. All I got to do is invest in the right place, and my heart will be in the right place, if that's true. Here's the cheat code. In order to get my heart in the right place, I just got to invest in the right place. If I invest somewhere, my heart goes there. So if I don't like where my heart is at, if I'm nasty towards something, maybe I just ought to invest there until I can't afford to be nasty in that area anymore. For example, can you think of a family member you don't like? You do? Okay. Don't point at them, but okay. Think about that. If what you do is on the way home today, you swing by the Come and Go, right? And you pick up like a gift card for a 2-for-1 Wednesday heat lamp burrito, okay? And then you write them a little note on one of those napkins and you give it to them. And you're like, listen, hey, I was thinking about you and I just want to get this for you. You invested there. You're going to be a little less nasty towards them. Your heart's going to be there. You got someone that you work with, someone you go to school with, that you are not naturally connected. And you're like, you know what, I want to do something for you. I want to invest in your life. All of a sudden you start caring. Maybe you're like, I can't believe I live in Springfield. Like, I want to blow this joint. Not like the legal thing, but like the move out of town thing. Like, there's so much crime around here. It just ain't what it used to be. And what if you invested? He says, man, I believe in what this town could be. I want to help out. All of a sudden now I got a heart towards this. Like, oh, my kid's school, and I don't even know what they're trying to do in my kid's school anymore. What if you started serving on the PTA? What if you showed up for the carnival? All of a sudden now, wherever I invest, my heart goes. You know that's true. Those examples, they make sense. So we got to think about this. Now, okay, I've got some friends who are going to bring out a table here. So they're going to bring out a table, and we're going to close with this, the longest illustration ever. And so as they do that, I want us to picture, for today's purpose, I'm going to use some math, and I'm going to use easy math. And so I'm going to use the kind of math we've seen in the Old Testament, the 10%, right? So I'm going to use that we are charged to be generous. Again, what I'm saying, Jesus never eliminated the tithe. He also never elevated the tithe. He just commanded us to be generous. So I don't know. I'm one of those pastors that I'm not going to tell you what I think you should give. I don't know. I'm not even one who's going to tell you where I think you should give it. I think that's a conversation you should have with God. And I think everyone who's a follower of Jesus ought to be generous. So for today's purpose for the visual, let's picture it like 10%, okay? So I've got some friends who've got some produce that are coming out here with me, and let's pretend that I'm like a farmer is our illustration, okay? And so we've got, how many like Brussels sprouts? Of course we do, right? With a little garlic, a little sauteed, okay? If we have 10 Brussels sprouts and 1/10 of them goes to God, how many does God get? All right, it's Sunday, okay, but God gets a Brussels sprout. We got 10 mushrooms. Are these the legal kind, Zach? Okay, our God's the Most High. Okay, here we go. We give God 1 mushroom and we get 9 mushrooms. And now we got Schrutz beets right here. Schrutz beets. I'm not a big beet guy, but we get 9, God gets 1. And then when God gives us plums, we're like, man, we've got 10 plums. What, did you just drop? I stepped on a plum. Bro. We'll give God this one, okay? He can heal, okay? So I'll leave that there. Okay, we got 10 tomatoes, right? I'm gonna put 9 tomatoes there. We'll put 1 tomato there. And God gives me 10 apples. I'm gonna have 9, careful, 9 apples. Give God an apple. What else do we got? You dropped another plum? Good grief. Okay, avocado. You can't have Taco Tuesday without this guacamole. So if God gives you 10 guacamoles, I'm gonna take one of the guacamoles, say, thank you, God. I'm gonna give him one. And then we got bell peppers, okay? Are these bell peppers? Bell peppers, Dan? No? Peppers, pepper family. Okay, we've got these sour apples, okay, and if God gives me 10 of those, I'll take one of them and I'll give them to God, or baby pumpkins. Oranges, if God gives me, you get the point? We're not done though. If God gives me 10 oranges, I say, thank you for giving me 10 oranges. Everything I own is really on loan. You give me everything. 10 carrots, let's give God this one. We'll give God this carrot, okay? I keep the other, potatoes. And so we're gonna give God a potato. We got more stuff here? Man, this is awesome. Okay, ears of corn. If God gives us 10 ears of corn, we're gonna go ahead and give him an ear of corn. Oh man, bananas, okay? We know God will take a banana. Okay, we'll give God this banana. Okay, now here's a quiz for you. Anybody know what this is? Farmer Dan's not allowed to say. Anybody know what this is? Y'all do? Saturday night, this stumped us, okay? This is a rutabaga. I don't even like them. We'll keep 1 for us and give God 9 of these, okay? Actually, we might trade him for, okay, no, that's not cool, okay? So we give God these. Oh, we got pears, okay? We'll give God a pear since he gave us 10. We'll give him 1. Onions. These are great onions, okay? So we're gonna say, okay, God, well, you get an onion, and then we'll keep some onions. And what do we got here? Heads, let me take a few of these, okay? Okay, we got heads of lettuce. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Where's my Branson friend? Branson? Put me in your show. Okay, so we'll give God 1, okay? And then we got, let me see if I can juggle pineapple. I'm just kidding, I can't. Okay, we'll give God a pineapple, and I think that's about all. Give them a hand. They got their steps in. Zach and Ashley leading worship in Springfield. Phenomenal, love it, thank you very much. And, okay, so here's what I want you all to see. We got our table, and we got God's table here. Now, America, our tendency is to say, oh, crud, I need a bigger table. I don't have enough room. Do you know the storage industry is one of the, and this, I'm not giving you investing advice, but I'm just saying, one of the fastest growing industries in America is storage units. Do you know that 90% of the world's storage units are in the United States? Think about that. In one of the most affluent nations in the world, we got stuff. And we're like, God, thank you for my stuff. I want more stuff. What if for $102 a month, average price of a storage unit, I can store more stuff? And some of you are like, well, the only reason we do that is because when you're moving and stuff, or if you're living in your car, you need a place for your stuff. And I love where your head's at, Mother Teresa. But that's not truth. Truth is 75% of people who rent a storage unit also own their house, a place where they can put their stuff. They just ran out of a place to put their stuff because they just got extra stuff. And this is not guilt. I'm just trying to say, this is who we are, right? We got stuff. We got stuff. And a lot of times we'd be like, God, seriously? You want all this? God, what am I going to eat? Let me also, I'm going to overshare. I'm going to give you specific numbers just because it'd be helpful in my mind and it might be helpful in yours. When Leanne and I got married a long time ago, we made a decision that we are going to put food on this table. No matter what came in on this table, our income, we decided we're going to give God what's right, not what's left. Because some people wait to put food on this table if they have anything left. And the problem with our assumption of consumption is we rarely have anything left, even if we got a lot. So we made a decision. And some of you are like, well, yeah, but you guys, like silver spoon, like multimillionaires, even when you know, it's actually not the case. And I'm not bragging, but our family income when we started this, annual income between Leanne and I was $20,500 every year, okay? Now, I don't know when I throw out that kind of number if you're like, dang, I want to be a youth pastor. Okay, I don't know if that's what comes to your mind. Or if you're like, how did you survive on $20,500? For us, it wasn't about how much was on our table. For us, it was about God. All good gifts come from the Father above. And God, we want to make sure no matter what you bring into this table, we put something on this table. And we've been married about 311 months now. And every month, the first thing I do is I bring God and I say, God, thank you. There's been seasons where we had way more on our table than we need. And there's been seasons where we've been like, well, let's add some water, right? But whether in plenty or little, I want to give God what's right. And I like to do it first. And it's not like we're not weird about it. It's just like, that's my principle. It's the first thing I do. I know when payday is, the first thing I do when I wake up, and I'm a text giver, okay? The first thing I do is make that. And I'm not weird like, what? Leanne, I looked at her statement. You paid the electric bill before I was able to give money to the mission? Now our money's cursed. I'm not weird like that, okay? But it's a principle of like, I want to make sure no matter what we do. And then here's what's weird about us. Like we're kind of geeky about this. Every January, we decide, how much fruit do we want to put on this table this year? Let's stretch ourselves. Let's challenge ourselves. What if we can be a blessing? Now, and guess what we get to do? And we have this conversation every month. I look at it every week and we have a conversation every month. Here's what we currently have on the table. Here was our goal for us to have on the table. Where do we want to send this money? What mission do we want to be a part of? Where do we want to invest? Where do we want to put our treasure in right now? And out of this table comes things from, obviously, listen, shocker, we believe in North Point. Okay, so North Point is part of this for us. The Dream Center is a part of this for us. Different things that come up in the community are a big part of it for us. Helping people in a non-even organization way comes out of this table. And we have conversations of every year, let's make sure we're loading this table up and we're getting this table out. That's generosity. I'm not going to tell you where to put the stuff on this table. What I want to challenge everyone to do is be the type of follower of Jesus to say, God, you've loaded me up. Let me make a commitment to giving back. And then now you've got a new job description. You are in charge of where do you point this money? Where do you point these resources? How do you want to do it? Talk to God about it. Read about the needs going on in different places. And then get excited and have the conversation with whoever helps make those decisions. For us, we would do this with our girls even when they were little. Say, hey, here's what we have right now that's unaccounted for that we want to give back. Everyone come up with an idea of a place that you think would be benefited by this gift. And then we pretend like we're some big fancy organization. We'd be like, I like your idea. Here, make that donation. I like your idea. Here, make that donation. What if you were able to do that, no matter how much is on here or how much is on here? You need to understand this is a backwards principle. The normal principle is let's load it up and build a bigger table when we need to and guard it. But Jesus says, be a blessing to those around you. And when we live like that, how beautiful is that? Can you imagine if half the Christians in the Bible Belt did this? And the different amazing opportunities and organizations and ministries that are around us. We're just like, well, we've been waiting to invest in something like this, and we've already set this aside. So my challenge for you is, what do you got to do to dig yourself out of overwhelming need so that you can have enough financial margin where you can fight the overactive greed and say, I want to be generous. And don't be intimidated with how much it is, and don't be discouraged by how small it is. Start where you can and have a convo with God and let him speak to you and encourage you. Some of you have been doing this for years. Some of you have been doing this for decades. And I promise you, those of you who've been doing it for decades, you would be the first to line up and say, this principle has absolutely brought purpose to my life. I don't regret a penny that I have invested from this table. There's a lot of regrets I have from that table, right? That's all right. Let's be generous, joyful, arrows out. Now, the last thing on your notes is this. My money has an arrow, so where's it pointed? All my money has an arrow. Is it pointed in or is it pointed up and out? Rich towards God. And when I can live rich towards God, it's not about how much I can consume. It's, God, if I find myself in a spot where I can be a blessing to others, you can count on me. That is a backwards principle from Jesus I'm confident will drive us forwards in our faith.